Most relocation guys won't tell you the real trade-offs of living in Dallas, but they also won't show you why 178,000 people moved here last year. And after almost 50 years of living in the Fort Worth area, the suburbs of North Fort Worth, I'm still here. And it's probably not because of the Cowboys or corporate relocations. But today I'm breaking down what nobody tells you about moving to this area in 2026. So the good, the frustrating, and who actually thrives here. Almost 50 years in one city tells you everything you need to know about whether a place actually works. Let me jump into it because after all this time of living here, it's hard to see myself living anywhere else. But here's the thing. Happiness in Fort Worth and the suburbs of North Fort Worth isn't really just automatic. It's about understanding what you're getting into and making smart choices about where you live and how you set up life. In the area I grew up in North Fort Worth, 2026 are completely different places. We've grown into one of the top tier US metros and are on track to challenge Chicago's size sometime in the 2030s. And that growth brings huge opportunities, but it also creates challenges most people don't see coming. So what makes me happy here despite all the changes? Well, there's three main. Our area is home to 21 Fortune 500 headquarters, including companies like Exxon, AT&T, McKesson, and CBRE. The job market ranks in the top 10 nationally for growth, and we added 178,000 new residents between 2023 and 2024. If you're building your career and you want to grow something, this area gives you that platform. I've watched this Metroplex transform more in the last 15 years than it has in 50. If you're a business owner, where you're based matters significantly. And if you're thinking about relocating, number one, you're going to have way better taxes whenever it comes to business. But your market is just going to be so much bigger, especially if you're focusing on a local market. And of course, not only is the corporate tax rate great, but Texas has no state income tax, and that's not really a talking point today. That's real money back in your pocket, though. That matters when you're building wealth and planning for your future. And of course, third, the diversity of lifestyle options. If you want urban energy, you got the city centers. If you're looking for top-ranked schools, northern suburbs provide that as well. If you're looking for character and walkability, we have some really cool spots. The DFW area gives you choices, and that flexibility matters as your life changes. What am I not happy about? Well, it's traffic. Traffic kind of seems to get worse a little bit every year. Our region ranks as the 17th most congested in the United States, while drivers lose on average 38 hours per year stuck in traffic. That's almost two full working weeks in your car not going anywhere. But if you like audiobooks or podcasts, you could learn a lot during that time. If you live in the northern suburbs and you're commuting, you're going to get hit hard during rush hour. Driving from the far north, you could be on the road for 45 to 60 minutes. Infrastructure is another thing. There's constant construction everywhere. We're growing significantly. That's kind of like a good thing and a bad thing, but you have to deal with that on the roads and the bridges and everywhere else. But am I happy? Sure. Yeah. Would I move again? I mean, there's other places I'd like to live, but economically and location-wise, the Fort Worth and North Fort Worth area just makes the most sense for me. But the main thing is you need to understand what you're signing up for. And that starts with knowing what it actually costs to live here and the lifestyle. And so if you're seriously weighing a move and you want someone who actually lives this reality to walk you through neighborhoods, the schools, and what your specific situational needs are, that's exactly what we do. Mindy Bone and I have helped thousands of families move within and relocate from out of state. We're the best relocation team here in the area, And if we can help, reach out. Contact info below or on the screen. All right, but let's look at the economic opportunity I just mentioned a moment ago. It means nothing if you actually can't afford to live here. Okay, so our cost of living sits basically right at about the national average, but that number hides some important details. The median home price in the area recently hit close to $350,000. But here's the catch that really nobody talks about. Property taxes in Texas are high. Rates can be around 1.72% or higher. So on a $500,000 home, you're looking at around $8,600 per year in property taxes. And that's way higher than the national average. It's the trade-off for no state income tax. But I want to show you how this plays out. Okay, so on a $500,000 home purchase, you're looking at a monthly mortgage payment, assuming 20% down and a 7% interest rate, around $2,600. That's principal and interest only. Property taxes are around $715 a month, and you got insurance $250 to $300 a month. And insurance is going to be a bit higher. National insurance prices have been all over the board, but because of our wind and hail in Texas, for sure it's going to be on the higher side. You probably got some HOA fees if you're in a master plan community. Those could be $100 a month, depending on where you're at, maybe $500 a year. So add all that up, and you could easily be around $3,700 to $4,100 a month. And by the way, the hail risk I just mentioned, we'll get into why that's a real consideration later on. It's just one of those hidden costs that kind of catches up if you could be caught off guard. So it's just something we need to talk about. Other costs break down kind of like this. Utilities running higher than average because summer cooling in Texas is brutal. You'll easily spend $200 to $300 a month on electricity during the summer months, July through September, when your AC is pretty much running nonstop. And then also watering your grass, that can be a huge water bill. Groceries are really near the national average. Transportation costs are higher because you definitely need a car, and gas prices are usually lower than coastal states. Healthcare is slightly above average, though we have world-class facilities like UT Southwestern, which consistently ranks as the #1 hospital in the region. But how does this compare to other major cities? This is where our area starts looking really attractive. So if you compare this to San Francisco, our housing is 60 to 70% cheaper. So the $1 million starter home in San Francisco gets you a luxury estate in North Fort Worth suburbs for the same price, probably with some land. Compared to New York, we're 40 to 50% less expensive overall. So your Manhattan apartment could buy you a nice home here with a pretty big yard. Compared to Los Angeles, we're 35 to 45% cheaper. So the California lifestyle comes at a premium that this area simply doesn't require. Compared to Austin, we're actually 10 to 20% cheaper now, which surprises people. Austin's housing market has jumped so hard that the Fort Worth area is now more affordable. It's a more affordable Texas option than it used to be. Austin's housing market has jumped so hard that the Fort Worth area is now more affordable, is a more affordable Texas option for a lot of families. And here's what you need to understand. Affordability doesn't mean cheap. Housing costs are rising faster than many can support. And what felt affordable 5 years ago feels expensive now for many buyers. Understanding these numbers matter because they determine who actually succeeds here versus who struggles. Which brings us to the profiles of people who thrive in the market. All right, so who actually thrives here? Not everyone that moves here stays long term. And after working with thousands of relocations, the pattern to us is pretty clear. The people who absolutely thrive here fall into a few different groups. You got corporate professionals, executives. Our region is home to 21 Fortune 500 companies, and that creates huge networking opportunities, career mobility, and strong incentive packages. The lack of state income tax means your take-home pay is way higher. And companies know that they can attract talent by offering some competitive packages that go further here than in the coastal markets. And as your income goes up, you're really going to appreciate that no state income tax. Then you got families who care about education. The area has some of the best public school districts in the nation. Spots like Southlake, Trophy Club, Flower Mound, where schools rank among the top in Texas. They're opening new state-of-the-art schools all the time that keep up with growth. They're like college campuses. Some districts are adding thousands of students every year, which tells you everything about the family migration that's happening in the North Fort Worth area. Then you've got entrepreneurs and business owners. The business-friendly environment here is real. No state income tax helps your business's profitability. Regulations are usually reasonable, and the growing market means you have more potential customers. Access to capital and resources is strong with active investor networks and business groups throughout the area. Speaking of investment, when we look at growth patterns later, you'll see exactly which suburbs are positioned for the next wave of appreciation and some areas that most people are really overlooking right now. So despite some market cooling in 2025, the northern suburbs have shown strong long-term growth. Population growth is driving demand, and Texas has landlord-friendly laws that make operating rental properties less risky than, say, New York. So good luck on that one, New Yorkers, by the way. So Texas is open and ready for you to move. And of course, our region is emerging as a major tech hub. People are actually calling it the Silicon Prairie. AI and cloud roles have seen strong double-digit growth over the last few years. For someone in their 20s or 30s building a career, we offer urban neighborhoods with a cool vibe, strong job prospects, and the ability to save money that would be impossible in San Francisco or New York. People are moving from expensive coastal cities, and this is probably one of the biggest groups. If you're moving from anywhere with a high cost of living, this feels like an immediate quality of life and pay raise. Housing affordability improves dramatically. No state income taxes saves you major money, and you get similar amenities at a fraction of the cost. Going back to property taxes, I just want to mention for all of you veterans out there, if you're 100% disabled, you can come to Texas and you'll have zero property tax. That is a huge win. We've helped military families relocate here and move here, especially in retirement. And that's a big deal to not have to pay property taxes. That could save thousands per year. That's a big deal. So, but who struggles here? Well, let's be honest about that. Because if you're a public transit advocate and you don't want to own a car or drive anywhere, guess what? This is probably not for you. We have some rail things, but a car is absolutely required for suburban life. If you're an outdoor and nature lover, this area is flat. No mountains, no beach, no dramatic natural scenery without driving several hours. We do have some amazing parks and lakes, but if you need regular access to hiking or skiing or beach activities, you might be a little bit disappointed. Although we do have beach areas on our lakes, you can water ski on lakes, not necessarily snow ski, but we got a lot of trails and parks around here. So I think you can easily make up for that. It's just not Colorado. It's not going to get the dramatic scenery as California. And that's really my biggest gripe with the flatness of the area is there's just not a ton to do outside. The heat. Some people just can't handle it. I don't like the heat. I don't like the cold. But if you hate traffic and you're used to public transportation and not sitting in traffic, the reality is you end up commuting. It's probably not going to be fun for you if you're looking for a walkable lifestyle outside of a few neighborhoods. You pretty much got to drive to those little spots. If you want to go to a cool spot to hang out, if you're going to have to drive. If you want to go to a cool spot, you're going to have to drive. It's not like other cities. I love walking those areas, but here all the cool neighborhoods are kind of like isolated. You're going to have to drive to each one. But if you look at the overall aspect of living here, it rewards ambition, mobility, and adaptation. You're building something. You're growing your career or focusing on family life with good schools. If you need to see mountains or ocean every day, or need public transportation or hate driving, you'll probably struggle here. But even if you fit that thriving profile, the frustrations can wear you down if you're not prepared. Beyond the big picture of the pros and cons, it's kind of this daily friction that might determine whether you'll actually enjoy living here. The traffic, again, if you're commuting, that can be a problem. As I mentioned earlier, around major intersections like 635 and 75, it can be a nightmare. Midday congestion sometimes just sucks. So if you work from home and you think, hey, I'm going to get out at lunch and beat the traffic, go run some errands, you can still get caught up in it. And what I really don't like is left turns in the suburbs, because if you come to the stoplights in the suburbs, it actually takes you 2 to 3, sometimes 4 lights to get through. And if you're driving to make a left turn, it's even worse. Then in the north, you got 380, which is under construction. The parts that I care about most are mostly done right. But they're going to be working on that for the next year or two. The growth isn't really temporary. The growth is constant construction. You need to build in that time if you're traveling around. And then you got to think about, with the schools as well, school boundary changes and these faster growing areas catch families off guard constantly. We experience that ourselves. I've seen a lot of incidents where families buy specifically to access one elementary school, and 6 months later, the district redraws boundaries and suddenly their kids are assigned to a completely different campus. So you do have to be mindful of that. Going back to the heat again, I do have to warn you, it gets hot. This last summer was pretty mild, but you could actually hit 30 to 50 days of 100-degree heat. Some people are weird and they like it. That's not me. It is kind of dry, but humidity gets up, in the summer. It's not like a wet humidity that you get in Houston or New Orleans. If you have a remote start on your car, that's a must. If you have a garage at your house, that's a big deal. It makes it much more bearable. When you go out shopping, you'll try to park a little bit further away under a tree for some shade, but you got to keep in mind that comes with higher bills, higher AC cost in the summer and higher heating bills in the winter, because the cold here is different. It's not like a Northeast cold. Chicago gets crazy cold. New York, Pittsburgh, but 40 degrees in New York or Pittsburgh doesn't feel bad. It's just a different cold because that dry humidity, and, some people just don't like it. During the summer, if you're going to exercise, you've got to do that early morning or late evening. And also, you got to make sure that your kids don't melt in the middle of summer. If you take them out, car steering wheels, all that kind of stuff, like it gets crazy hot. And if you're a sweater, you'll have a lot of fun if you like to sweat. I personally don't enjoy any of that. Going back to the hail damage, I mentioned this earlier. We do get crazy hailstorms sometimes in the spring. This last year wasn't that bad, but hail happens typically every spring. It's actually light enough that it doesn't cause a lot of damage, but if it gets bigger than golf ball size, it can do some serious damage. We had baseball size hail about 2 years ago. Having a garage is critical for that very reason, because if you can park your car in the garage and not fill your garage full of junk, then that will protect you from the hail. Or you can buy some hail covers for your cars if you leave them outside. That's something you just don't want to mess with. Just the repairs, claiming that on your insurance every year. I think it once every 3 to 5 years, but it's just something you need to be aware of. The suburbs, that suburban sprawl kind of gets repetitive. Once you get into the outer suburbs, you got master plan communities. Sometimes they kind of start running together, looking the same builders, same floor plans, same amenities. Strip malls kind of blend together. It kind of lacks a little bit of character and history. So if you value uniqueness and historic charm, there's plenty of little historic districts all throughout the area that I personally love. I love historic homes and the old town feel. It's one of my favorite things. At the same time, The suburbs have all these amenities, pools and parks and trails and everything else. And I do believe that some of these master plan communities do a good job of not having the same floor plan or model on the same block. So at least on one of your blocks, you have a good variety of homes, but you do lack some trees sometimes in some of these newer communities. Yes, you do get to keep in mind property taxes, and they do get reassessed every year. You want to make sure you get your homestead exemption in place. If you're a senior, get your senior exemptions. Those are very important. If you're military, get the military exemptions. Do everything you can. And you can even hire law firms to fight for your property taxes, which some people do that every year. We've disputed ours every year for the last probably 15 years. Our area has several distinct populations living completely different lifestyles based on geography and their stage in life. You got the urban core with more young professionals. We're talking 25 to 35 age range, high concentration of singles and young couples without kids. You have this dynamic energy and real active social scene. These areas have some good walkability so you can function without driving all the time. But once people get married, and especially once they have a kid or two, they typically want to move north. The progression is almost predictable. You get established suburbs like Southlake, Trophy Club, Flower Mound that attract families with school-age children. These aren't small bedroom communities. They're full cities. Then you have the explosive growth north where young families are building new lives in brand new master plan communities that have all the amenities. You got schools, space, amenities. These communities are now offering resort style living. They got lagoons, pools, clubhouses, trails, community events. Schools are top notch. It's designed for family life. And here's what this creates: a region that's increasingly split by age and geography. If you're young and single, the urban core is really vibrant. If you have kids, you're likely moving 25 to 40 miles north to access schools and family-friendly environments. That can create some challenges. The commutes get longer, the sense of being connected to the main city become abstract when you're living in what feels like a separate suburb. I feel that all the time, but you get a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot house for what you would pay for maybe 1,500 to 2,000 square feet closer to the city center. You get some yards, pools, and access to school districts that rank among the highest in Texas. So if you're moving here with kids or planning to start a family, you want to understand that pattern. You're likely going to end up in the suburbs regardless of where you initially think you might want to live, because once school quality becomes the priority, the decision makes itself. Between 2023 and 2024, our region absorbed the equivalent of a mid-sized American city. And that pace shows no signs of slowing down. We added 178,000 residents in just 1 year. We're projected to hit 10 million residents by 2040. That's the stats, but here's what it looks like when you're living through that. New construction everywhere. You're going to see hundreds of homes under construction, roads under construction. They're building resorts. It's a ton. You got massive new developments, including championship golf courses, mixed-use spaces. You're going to be able to do whatever you need inside those communities. The corporate relocations just keep coming here. Nearly a dozen new headquarters moved here in 2025. These moves bring thousands of jobs and attract more talent, which creates this feedback loop of growth. But that growth can create some strain. The roads are packed because infrastructure can't keep up with the population. Schools are opening constantly, but sometimes still feel a little overcrowded. Water and power systems are stressed during peak usage, and housing prices are rising. A 2025 survey said 68% of residents think growth is happening much too fast. They're not wrong. The pace is pretty intense. And if you're not in a position to benefit from it, the growth feels disruptive rather than exciting. For newcomers, this growth means opportunity. The job market is expanding. real estate is going up in value in the good areas. But it also means competition, traffic, and a city that's constantly changing. If you understand this reality, both the opportunity and the friction, that determines whether you'll thrive here or constantly feel overwhelmed by the pace. In conclusion, I would say this area rewards those who understand the trade-offs and choose their location strategically, not those who chase the lifestyle without accepting the new reality. So if you're seriously considering the move, all our contact information is below. We'd be happy to talk through and help you figure out what area you should start looking in, which neighborhood is going to best fit you and your family. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.